And WDVM's Rebecca Burnett was there and joins us live from Manassas. Rebecca, what are the next steps?
So Aaliyah, just beyond those trees and the noisy lawnmower, as we speak, the city is working to actually drain the pond, and they're using what's called aeration methods. Now that's actually to sort of disperse the bad smell that's been wafting over this neighborhood for the past 2 weeks. After that, the city plans to drain the pond entirely, which could take about 2 weeks. Now the city has used these measures before. As we reported on Wednesday, this is an issue neighbors have been dealing with for about 10 years. This time, the deputy city manager, Brian Foster, who wasn't around in 2014 when it was at its worst, is recruiting an outside contractor to determine where exactly the smell is coming from and the best way to stop it. Now, as you said earlier, Mayor Hal Parrish was out here today. He told all the neighbors out here that this is not what the city of Manassas is about and that they have heard their message loud and clear. Now, as far as the neighbors go, I spoke to them after the meeting and they said they're just going to wait and see because this could be another promise that isn't kept. Reporting in Manassas, Rebecca Burnett, Nova News.
Oh, say, can you see?
The American history book is thick. This school year, students of Justice High School, formerly known as Jeb Stuart High School, are writing a new chapter in their history books.
It's great to have started out the school year this way, and I think it's going to be a great school year with a lot of positivity.
A path forged by students 3 years ago, community outreach and school board involvement, and a vote. Jeb Stuart High School to be renamed Justice.
It's one of the most diverse in Fairfax County and even in the country. So it did make sense for us to have a name that represented that diversity.
Is this change a new chapter in the history book or a rewritten one?
We have to look at the context in which something was named. It was named deliberately after a Confederate general in support of massive resistance.
Now the school is named for historical figures with local ties. For Barbara Rose Johns, said to have led the first protest jump-starting the civil rights movement, Colonel Louise Mendez, who landed in Normandy on D-Day, and Thurgood Marshall, the Supreme Court's first African-American justice.
We now have the opportunity and the freedom to rise. We want to make sure that that's true for everyone, no matter the color of their skin, who they love, what God they pray to, that they too get a shot at the American dream, and that's what this rededication really celebrates.
With liberty and justice for all. Reporting in Falls Church, Rebecca Burnett, Nova News. Ripon Middle School celebrated the end of the week with a pep rally. This one had some special guests, not in person, but over FaceTime.
We're going to be FaceTiming with the principal right now at Northwood Park. Make sure you listen to it. Let's ready for
Northwoods Park, a middle school in Jacksonville, North Carolina, was partially destroyed by Hurricane Florence.
We were off to a great start. Kids were excited, the staff was excited, and this has been quite heartbreaking.
A former Northwoods gym teacher, now an administrator at Ripon, is teaching his middle schoolers an important lesson.
Teaching them how to give, teaching them that there's a world outside of their own is huge.
And we're looking at getting 3 backpacks chock full of gift cards.
In just 3 weeks, Pelkey and his students have raised $800 in gift cards for Northwood staff and families. 683 students were displaced during the hurricane and have been out of classes for a month.
So the roof peeled off the back of the building, which exposed all of our classrooms on the back hallway, plus our locker rooms. The water obviously poured in from the storm.
Once stuffed with gift cards, the backpacks will be shipped to Northwoods. Principal Garland is more than ready to help her students get back in the classroom.
They are quite challenging at times, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Reporting in Woodbridge, Rebecca Burnett, Nova News. When faced with tragedy, Fairfax County first responders are the calmest on scene.
My station's kind of busy, so we run anywhere between 8 and 15 calls a day.
We can go from one tragic scene to 10 or 15 minutes later go to another one, and it doesn't really give our firefighters an opportunity to process that.
Years of their expression they bury deep.
This is what's inside of your door, and when we go to cut the door and cut you out of the car, we have to cut these.
Unearthed on these walls at a temporary art exhibit.
So you just walk in and you're like, I can't believe that we all came together and we did something so awesome like this. Everyone goes home. It's like a saying that we have, and this is why we go home, because we have a life outside the fire department.
A little under a year ago, a local artist reached out to the fire department with a coping mechanism.
You're allowed to make mistakes, and no one's going to die, and that is liberating to watch every single person who's had to come in to kind of get past that barrier.
About once a week, responders leave their heavy boots and helmets at the door and turn their energy to art.
It brought a very large balance to my life, which was already very full of pouring out to other people. It gave me an opportunity to receive for myself. This one is really personal.
Yes.
These are all pieces from accident scenes. What's in our head, and then how it goes from destruction to us painting that picture that we're all shiny, but we're not really sometimes. It removes that hopeless place and brings it into a joy.
Reporting in Reston, Rebecca Burnett, Nova News. 6 years ago last August, Mount Pleasant Baptist Church burned for the third time in its 140-year history.
Only God knows what was going through his mind.
In 2013, a Haymarket man pled guilty to arson.
This is the headstone he broke and threw it through the window.
At around 4 in the morning, crews were called to the church, engulfed in smoke.
I prayed and I realized that it wasn't a dream.
I looked up at the cross and I saw that the cross was still lit.
Then it flickered, then it came back on, and then it went off.
In court, Pastor Carlisle had one message for the defendant.
I forgive him. We forgive him.
Established in 1877, the church was a Northern Virginia settlement. Freed slaves purchased the land, and the log cabin was later named Mount Pleasant.
The foundation, the place where people could gather and felt meaningful and love and support, was the centerpiece of the, particularly the African American culture in this Gainesville area.
Now the congregants look to rebuilding.
Yeah, that's where the fire was.
With a $1.2 million estimate, they've taken care of the water and sewer system. There won't be much work to do in the sanctuary, spared by the flames.
It was like God stopped when it got to the sanctuary.
And with a century of history, there's no stopping this congregation now.
Though this church on a solid brick and mortar foundation, the true foundation was the faith in God.
Reporting in Gainesville, Rebecca Burnett, Nova News.